This is the memorial to the Peterloo Massacre, which took place right here. It's all looking very sanitised here now. This was unfortunately a really tragic bloodbath just over 200 years ago. This was Peters Fields area of Manchester, and the Peterloo Massacre got its name with a kind of ironic reference to the great victory of Britain over Napoleon just a few years before at the Battle of Waterloo. So they combined Peter and Loo together, and hence the Peterloo Memorial. What I find lovely about coming here right now is to see that this is an active and live in the consciousness of the people hereabouts. In fact, that floral tribute to the people who died and were maimed in this tragedy comes from Manchester City Council. So lovely that the authorities are now on the side of the oppressed, and the protest was about raising awareness for the need of parliamentary reform. And it is actually overall one of the strengths, I think, of Britain, that you do have this gradual drift, not always fast enough for the people of the day, and there were those tragedies on the way, but the drift towards a full democracy. And I've come here quite deliberately to introduce to you to a film in which I get very animated and excited about liberty. So from here, in the middle of Manchester, let's hoof over to Philadelphia. I'm in the heart of Philadelphia, first time I've ever been here, and I can't think why. I've been to America several times and I've not come to this part, this kind of centre of everything really. This is the, in a way, spiritual centre of the very secular America. Look over there, that is Independence Hall. That is where the Declaration of Independence was made. Now, in the church tower, you can just see up there, used to be what we now call the Liberty Bell. And over here, there's a huge queue of people queuing to see the Liberty Bell, which has got its own little kind of housing and museum over there. But the Liberty Bell, sitting up there in that clock tower, was that which summoned the good folk of hereabouts to hear the Declaration of Independence in 1776. And I managed to sneak into the Liberty Bell last night so I could avoid the queues. But whatever we think of America, and so many times America is portrayed in the media in a bad light, in a questioning light, in a cynical light about its policies and its presence and its role, not only internally here but also in the world. But I think it's important to remember that this is a country founded on really good ideals, and I'm proud to be talking as a quarter American myself. I always say culturally 100% British because that is where I spent my life and honed whatever it is that life has become. But my grandmother was Texan, and I've got loads of cousins here, and I love that transatlantic relationship really that's very personal to me. And I want to say, as a British person, that the Declaration of Independence, the no taxation without representation ethos, which caused the war of revolution against the British Crown, we shouldn't forget that at the time Britain itself was no great shakes as a democracy. That was still to come. We had a parliament, and the systems were in place to develop during the 19th and the 20th century. But there was a lot of people in Britain who were being taxed, being burdened, being exploited, who didn't have a vote, didn't have a say in the government as well. So I'm saying all herald to our American friends for leading the way. And I think that ultimately proved rather liberating for the Britain itself. So I don't see that as a war of independence from the way Britain is now, and no reflection on that special relationship that did take a while to unfold, but it was quite clearly manifest in the two world wars. This is the First Amendment to the US Constitution, and it's kind of at the heart of what we think underlies the politics, the political culture and Constitution of the United States. And this great big slab says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. That's so important, isn't it? Remembering that one of the original groups of people coming from Europe to found and create modern America were the Pilgrim Fathers, who set off from Plymouth at some point in the early 17th century. And they were a group of people who were being persecuted and certainly felt persecuted for their religious views and how they wanted to go about things. So really easy to understand perhaps why that's right at the top of this First Amendment. But it carries on, and this is where we get to, as the, rather appropriately, as the journalist might say, the nut graph, right? The nut graph for me anyway. Or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, of the right of the people peaceably to, I'm emphasising the word peaceably because not all people have exercised their right to freedom of speech in a peaceable way. 6th of January, a couple of years ago. Say no more. Right of people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Love the way they wrote there, great words, and a great statement that not only underwrites America, but it's a great thing to just bump into as you're on your way to the Independence Hall over there. One of the things I love about America and is that people do wear this history with a sense of pride. And this is so evident to me. Coming on the train, I came down from Penn Station in Manhattan, and as we got near to Philadelphia, this guy's voice came on, and I guess he was the train guard or whatever. I just eulogized about how important Philadelphia is, and what I'm looking at here and what I can see over here is to the American psyche. And he was saying he felt that it ought to be compulsory for every school kid in America to come here. And I like that idea. He then embellished it by saying it is the mecca of the American dream, of which he then cited himself as a great example. I love the idea of the American dream as really you can be whatever you want to be. And that ties in, I suppose, with the charity Sound Vision, which one of my purposes, by the way, over here is to kind of raise awareness of Sound Vision with my American friends and cousins. And who knows, you know, I don't want to run before we can walk, but who knows, there could be a kind of wider global English-speaking presence of Sound Vision. And I'm always looking 2 or 3 years ahead of where I am, and that's one of my reasons for being in America. But that idea that it is within ourselves to create the life of our choosing. Now, quite often, you're going to need a bit of help with that, and at Sound Vision we provide those kind of non-prejudicial environments for young people to come in. They won't be laughed at for having a go at their creativity, and developing that. And creativity, the kind of process of creativity is often kind of trying this, trying that. That didn't go so well. That's better, and then cumulatively, collectively, forward the process goes until you end up with something that you're quite happy with, and that could be a podcast, that could be a radio show, that could be a piece of music that you've composed and recorded. These are the things that Sound Vision is there to encourage. And I love the idea. It's only kind of just occurring to me now as I'm standing here in this incredible place, that does tie in principle with the ethos of the American dream. You're not tied to the life that you're born in. The reality is many people are. But a dream is a dream, and a dream is something to aspire to, even if the reality is not always going to be there for everybody. But that's what people in this country are working towards, to get other people access to the American dream. That is what we at Sound Vision are doing, and so many others as well. I've loved being in America, tapping into the American side of who I am and who my family is, but coming here, seeing that, and seeing the Liberty Bell, which is all about those principles of freedom that we should all, every one of us in the world, should be able to enjoy. As I say, the reality is not quite there for everybody, but the principles are in place. And it was great going to see Liberty Bell last night. It doesn't ring anymore, so it's a sort of silent bell, but one with great symbol. And I was sort of reading up about it actually, and very cleverly, the abolitionists of slavery, big movement of course in the 19th century, they cleverly used the symbol of the Liberty Bell to advance their cause. And that's absolutely right. Liberty should be liberty for all. And it took the authorities a little while and a ghastly civil war to fully realise that. And then there was the civil rights movement in the 1960s. And of course, not everyone is free right now. But we're in a country where freedom, and I've been to some other countries recently where this is not the case. So we are in a country where the freedom of the rights of the individual are at the centre of the culture and the centre of the sort of political climate and what informs everything that goes on in here. Well, I think that's enough for me. Shall I go to Washington now? I think my trip is going to end in Washington. And wouldn't it be great to record some of these thoughts with the White House behind me? So from here, in fact, before I go, I should mention that it occurred to me as I was at the Liberty Bell last night that I'd just been to Paris. This trip started in Paris, or earlier stages in Paris. The city of Liberté, another country which founded its constitutions out of revolution on a kind of a charter of rights for people, a Bill of Rights. And it goes wrong over there. That first revolution was the first of many revolutions. But again, the concept of liberté, and that wonderful painting I saw in the Louvre of the character of liberté going forward and taking the revolution forward as well. And of course it was the connections of France to America that we ended up with the Statue of Liberty, which was indeed a present from the people of France to the people of America. And so perhaps what we're talking about here for me is a tale of two cities, from Paris to Philadelphia. What a fantastic thing to have done. And now to Washington. Let's do it.